We'll go ahead and get started. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Phil Barbash. I am the Director of Camping for the National Capital Area Council. This is our third in a series of 4 installments of our webinar series, Let's Get Camping, planning for summer 2021. And tonight is going to be focused all on high adventure opportunities, both in council and out of council. So before we go ahead and get started, I want to introduce a couple of our panelists that are with us tonight, our esteemed panelists. First of all, we will start with Elizabeth Warren.
Hi everyone, my name is Elizabeth Warren. I am the Camp Director of Lenhok'sin High Adventure, which is the high adventure base at the Goshen Scout Reservation. And on to John.
All right, thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And I'm John Blackwell. I'm the chairman of the Council's High Adventure Committee. We deal mostly with the 4 national high adventure bases. We also have programs with Lenhok'sin and other council area high adventure bases across the country.
All right, good deal. Thank you, John. And then we'll go over to Sarah Moses, who does not have her camera on, but I promise you she is back there.
Hello, I'm Sarah. I'm the camping specialist. I'm going to be here in the background doing the technical stuff and helping with the Q&A. So if you have any questions, put them in the Q&A and we'll answer. If we don't answer them during the presentation, we will answer them during the Q&A at the end.
All right, so just as Sarah alluded to, we will be monitoring the Q&A section as we go forward, and we'll also have some time at the end where you can ask our panelists any questions that you have. We want to get started with a quick poll of everyone out there. So if you could load that up for me. Oh, a couple quick polls. So ready, set, go. All right. Looks like a good majority of you are planning on doing high adventure this coming summer, about 73%, which is fantastic. And then others are here to get information about future summers, which is also great. And it also looks like a pretty strong majority of you are here to hear about Lenhok'sin High Adventure, which is fantastic, with Philmont and Summit tied for second place there. So, we'll go ahead and move forward, and I'm going to ask Elizabeth to take over the show and start telling us all about the Lenhok'sin High Adventure.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Phil. Whoops, if I can get my screen to work. There we are. All right, as Phil mentioned, I'm going to be talking a bit about Lenhok'sin High Adventure. Lenhok'sin, fun fact, stands for an indigenous word of moccasin, hence our logo featuring a moccasin on there. So if you attend Lenhok'sin, you are going to see our symbol everywhere. First and foremost, Lenhok'sin High Adventure is at the Goshen Scout Reservation and is a backpacking and canoeing trek camp. So what is Lenhok'sin? Lenhok'sin is National Capital Area Council's very own high adventure base. You're not going to find anything like us around this area. We are located at Camp Baird. So if you look at the Goshen Scout Reservation map on our website, you're going to see everything from Camp Bowman to Camp Olmsted, but you're not going to see Lenhok'sin on there. And that is because we are based out of Camp Baird, one of the original camps from the 1960s. So fun Goshen history fact for you. The Goshen Scout Reservation has over 4,000 acres of forested area and is surrounded by 35 acres of state game land. And all of that, aside from our 400-acre lake, is yours to hike on. We feature 2 different types of treks, both I'm going to spend a little bit of time on today. The first being our backpacking trek, which is the most popular of the 2, and the second being our canoeing trek. So on your backpacking trek, we use what I like to call a plan your own adventure platform. And unlike other high adventure camps such as Philmont, where you are assigned an itinerary, you get to plan your entire week with us. So this is where you get to personally tailor your route to fit your unit's level of experience and your personal goals. So we have some troops that maybe are really ambitious and want to get their 50-miler award during their week at Lenhok'sin. Perfect. This is the place for you. And we have other crews that maybe this is their first time going out backpacking as a unit, aside from shakedown hikes they may go on. Perfect. This is the place for you as well. We help you find where you want to be each day by completing what is called a pre-trek camp survey. And that gives us an idea of your goals for the week and helps us tailor a trek for you. We spend 5 days and nights total on the trail. So you begin by arriving at base camp on Sunday. You go through a series of different trainings to make sure that you're all ready and prepared to hit the trail, everything from health and sanitation to how to manage a bear going sniffing around your pack if you're at camp. Monday, you hit the trail, which is our slogan here at Lenhok'sin, and then you're out there in the Goshen wilderness for the next several days, and we don't see you again other than the staff at staffed outposts until you return to base camp on Friday. And then you're off on Saturday morning for your next adventure. I wanted to show a few of my favorite photos that I've accumulated over the past few years of Lenhok'sin, because of course, you know, what is a backpacking trek without some great views? So up top, we have Viewing Rock. If you've attended any of our camps, especially some of our Webelos programs, one of the main programs that you get to do is going hiking up to Viewing Rock, and that is definitely not a view to miss. Down below, we have Forge Mountain, which is one of our 5 peaks that you can explore at Goshen. Then of course, a primary Lenhok'sin sign, which is a great photo opportunity for both before and after you get back from your trek, if you wanna compare morale or how big those smiles are about your scouts. And of course, down in the right-hand corner, Lake Meriwether, which is a beautiful place, both during sunrise, sunset, and everything in between. But what is scenery without scouts to enjoy it? So that could be you, and I hope it is you. Lenhok'sin, aside from hosting, of course, backpacking programs, we have a series of outposts that you're able to attend during your time there. And an outpost is just another word for an activity, but you're just going to be at that one outpost each day, depending upon what activities you want to do during your pre-camp survey. I have them split into 2 different categories. One is historical, and the other one is technical. And I'm going to break them down for you and go through what those activities are and why they may be right for your scouts. First up on our list is Mountain Man. Mountain Man is a staple piece of our program here, and definitely one that stays in the memories of scouts and scouters who attend. At Mountain Man, you are attending a 19th century Mountain Man encampment. We have our very own Mountain Man who, tried and true to the name. At Mountain Man, you're going to be experiencing black powder muzzle loading rifles, tomahawk throwing, and of course, bartering with the Mountain Man. So we like to encourage trades from maybe small pieces of leather work that your scouts have done in the past to marbles. We've seen all sorts of things coming through Mountain Man, and it's a lot of fun for those scouts to practice maybe their car bartering skills for the future. Next on our list of historical outposts is one called Foxfire. You're going to see a lot of 19th century style historical outposts here, and this one is our 19th century Appalachian blacksmithing forge. At this forge, you can forge your own S and J hooks, as well as knife blades, although they often turn out to be more butter knives than anything else, but still great for putting butter on whatever you may choose. We are also reintroducing branding this year, so get your, don't get your shoes stamped, maybe not, you want to be able to hike in those, but your hat or a piece of leather that you bring along with a GSR or an LHA on there, a great way to show your Goshen and Lenhok'sin pride in the future. We also offer bullet casting, candle making, and there's a creek or a stream called the Kelso Spring, which runs right by our forge, and is a perfect place to cool off your feet after a long day of hiking. All right, the last on our historical outpost list is Robin Hood, which as a former Robin Hood director is very close to my heart. Here at Robin Hood, you join Robin Hood's merry band of men. So how are you going to do that? Of course, a series of competitions to prove your worth to Robin Hood himself. And we can do that through a series of archery trials and competitions, dagger throwing, and darts competitions. At Robin Hood, you can end your night around the campfire with Robin Hood's crew telling tales of his deeds and goodwill to all in the Goshen wood. Moving over to our technical outposts, the first on my list is Aquatics, where we have stand-up paddleboarding and kayaking on our 450-acre lake, Lake Meriwether. This is one of the most beautiful views I feel here on the lake, and it's a great place to cool off again after a long day of hiking. You can see here in our images a crew out paddleboarding, as well as enjoying our campfiring that we have set up for your s'more and viewing pleasure. Next up is mountain biking. I feel like the name says it all. At mountain biking, you're able to go mountain biking on the trail system throughout the Goshen property. And we do this by assessing your skill level, whether you are more preferred with just street biking versus mountain biking. We're going to make sure that you feel comfortable and prepared when you're going out there on the trail, but it's really fun to be able to use your legs in a different way to get around than just hiking about as you've been throughout the week. COPE, which is, this stands for Challenging Outdoor Personal Experience. Some of your scouts may have done this in the past, whether it be at another camp or through our partner program at Camp Post. But at Lenhok'sin, we like to focus on team building exercises. You know, if your troop or your crew is going through the forming, storming, norming, and performing, so there's always going to be arguments on the trail no matter how prepared you may be. We're going to break those down and help you to form better relationships with your crew and get those spirits back up, maybe if you're hitting that midweek hump. We're also going to do low and medium elements, test that balance that you might have. And of course, what is COPE without some high elements? So over here on the top photo, we've got our giant swing, which is definitely a camp, just a reservation-wide favorite. And down below is the grapevine, which if you're feeling confident enough, I encourage you to try blindfolded. Next on my list, another Lenhok'sin favorite is caving. Now, caving is closed this summer just due to COVID concerns, but I still wanted to show it because it is part of the Lenhok'sin program. And you know, you don't have to just go to Lenhok'sin once, you can come back again. So our cave has over 3 miles of caving system to explore. We only scratched just the surface in like a 3 to 4 hour tour. But again, more reason to come back. Here in caving, we go through cave exploration everywhere from, where do you think this leads? Is it a dead end? Is it miles long? I don't know, let's go find out. And spelunking all the way to cave science and learning about cave formation. You get to see some beautiful stalactites and stalagmites, some calcite formation. There's a bat skeleton, learning about white nose syndrome. I could go on and on about how amazing this outpost is. I also like to describe this cave as a nice beginner's cave. You don't have to go through any crawl spaces if you're feeling claustrophobic. So it's a really nice introduction to caving. All right, last program, I promise. This is our primitive camping night, which is up to you if you want to do, but I highly recommend you take this opportunity because this is great for longer hiking days. So if your crew wants to go and hike to Big Butt Mountain, which of course with a name like that, who doesn't? But maybe you need a little bit of extra time since it's a 13-mile hike there and back to Big Butt. This is a great time to be able to primitive camp and get ready for maybe bigger treks such as Philmont along the way. If you're interested in taking time to complete the Kodiak Challenge, this is a great time because it's just you and your unit. Maybe work on some merit badge requirements and other awards, as well as fully immerse yourself in the Goshen wilderness. Test out those skills that you've been honing in on and working through your prior years at camp. All right, now that we're done with our backpacking program, I'm gonna move on to our canoe trek. So this is called the James River Canoe Trek because you are canoeing where? The James River, of course. We do this program in a partnership with the Twin River Outfitters, which is in Buchanan, Virginia, so not too far of a drive. It is a little over 61 miles of canoeing adventure. So if you were to take out a map, that is from a place called Iron Gate all the way to Snowden Dam. There are over 100 Class 1 rapids and 20 challenging Class 2 rapids, which of course can change depending on water level for the week. Of these rapids, it also includes what I'm told is an infamous rapid called the Balcony Falls Rapid. You are also camping on public campgrounds along the way. So just off the shore, you get to watch the river go by as you drift off to sleep. Similar to our backpacking program, you arrive at Lenhok'sin Base Camp on Sunday afternoon. We get you ready to ship out, and then you're gonna travel to your outfitter. And since you're not hitting the trail, we'll call it you paddle away. And then we see you come back to base camp on Friday, and we say goodbye as you head off to your next adventure on Saturday. Again, sharing some photos of, this is from the Twin River Outfitters website, and we have some other photos of crews up on our Facebook page. I believe that down here, this is the Balcony Falls Rapid, just to give you an idea of what your crew may look like on the river. Okay, just gonna give you a little bit of general information before we move on. A big question that I often get about is, what are we gonna do about food? I promise you don't need to forage for berries while you're out on the trail. We do provide meals, Sunday dinner all the way through Saturday breakfast. Sunday dinner and Friday dinner, you get really nice half breakfasts or dinners as a goodbye and welcome back from the trail. Every time in between, we have pre-packed meals for you that come in buddy pairs. So your scouts get to pair up, and that is their food buddy and often their tent buddy for the week. We are a Mountain House supplier, so a lot of our dinners that you're going to see are those dehydrated meals, like dehydrated, chili mac or spaghetti and meat sauce, chicken fried rice, lots of things like that. We also accommodate for allergies, and we're coming out with a new vegetarian menu this year. However, I do encourage people with dietary restrictions to bring their own supplemental food, just because you know your body better than we do, and maybe we don't pack in your favorite snack that helps you get through a day. The 2021 menu will be available soon on the website, but the 2020 menu that is up there is very similar. Participants, if you want to attend Lenhok'sin, you must be 13 by September 1st of 2021. If you were born on September 2nd, I'm sorry. Crew sizes, backpacking, we require 6 participants. 2 of those must be adults. However, canoeing, since it's with our outfitters, they ask for 8 participants minimum. Maximum on the trail is 12 participants, but sometimes if there's maybe 1 extra scout, we can allow that extra scout to attend. We also ask for your completed BSA medicals, part A, B, and C, as well as the NCAC health advisory. If you have any more questions about participant requirements or training, you can find all of this on the Lenhok'sin webpage on gotogoshen.org. One last plug before I go. If you're looking, I can't do a Lenhok'sin presentation without giving a shout out to Goat Crew. So if you are looking for a provisional trek and you are a member of the Order of the Arrow, the Goshen Order of the Arrow Trail Crew is an amazing experience. As I just mentioned, you must be a member of the OA for this program, but you get to spend 2 weeks on the trail. The first one, you're doing trail work and conservation. The second week, you are on your very own Lenhok'sin trek with first dibs on activities because you just did so much hard work. This is also at a discounted price and compared to a regular participant price, but GOAT is an amazing way to give back to council and to Goshen and to spend 2 weeks of your summer. All right, John, over to you.
All right, thank you, Elizabeth. Hey, what are signups like so far this summer? Do you have open weeks?
Yes, I believe week 4 is starting to close up a bit, but we still have openings with week 1 through 3.
There you go, folks. Sign up, line up, and do it today. It's a real hidden gem, Lenhok'sin. Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. What I'm going to do is cover the national high adventure bases that are scattered out across the country. I think probably most people are familiar with them that are in the audience tonight, but I'll go over them again real quickly. Philmont Scout Ranch, backpacking expeditions, Sangre de Cristo Mountains, which are the southern part of the Rocky Mountains, out near Cimarron, New Mexico. The 7, 9, and 12-day expeditions are available now. Elizabeth talked about choosing your own as you go along at Lenhok'sin. Participants in a Philmont crew choose their itinerary beforehand, and then it's all laid out for them. You go from point to point throughout the backcountry and then get bused back at the end, unless you choose to go the infamous Tooth of Time Traders approach back to base camp. That's probably the ultimate backpacking experience for scouts and old scouters like me, old backpackers like me. But that's something we'll talk a little bit more about that has some conditions coming on this summer for the COVID-related conditions. Sea Base down in Florida. It's located in the Florida Keys, but they also do excursions out to the Bahamas, St. Croix and St. Thomas, talking diving, scuba diving, coral reef sailing over to the Bahamas. There's even an out island adventure where you go out and live on an uninhabited island for a week. You come back smelling pretty ripe and having a great time. You go snorkeling and fishing through all these programs. Sea Base probably has more variety of different programs, more individual choices than any of the other bases. And you can see when you go to their website, it takes pages to leaf through all the possibilities. Northern Tier, probably the most wild and wilderness remote of the 4 camps. It's celebrating its 75th year, I think, this year. It's in 3 different bases. It's canoeing, portaging around from lake to lake, Ely, Minnesota in the United States, and then across the border with our Canadian friends, Attikokan, Ontario, and Beset, Manitoba. Unfortunately, this summer, it looks like the Canadian border is still going to remain closed. So we have only Ely treks going on this summer, but we'll hope to be able to get back to that next year. And then Summer Reserve, the high adventure base, it's right here on the East Coast, easy to get to, about a 4-hour drive from most parts of NCAC up to Garden Ground Mountain. And Summer Reserve is a little bit different kind of a camp. It's definitely high adventure because of the activities, but you stay in a base camp and then every day you go out to your different activities, come back to base camp in the evening. So it's not like Philmont, like I was explaining, going from point to point all around. They have rappelling, zip lines, mountain climbing, James River Gorge. Elizabeth, is the program at the James River program at Summit, is that still tied to Lenhok'sin program, or do they split those up?
No, they're 2 different programs, but we both have our own whitewater experience.
Right, similar thing, but they're separate now. Okay, good. All right, you can go ahead and go on to the next slide, please, Sarah. Or excuse me, Elizabeth. All right, so availability. I mentioned a little bit of this already, but Philmont, believe it or not, there's still openings for this summer. If you have decided, you wait until now and decided, hey, I want to go to a high adventure base, you wake up tomorrow morning, you can probably still pull that off. Although, at least for some of them like Philmont, you're going to have to start preparations pretty quickly here. Individual 12 and 7-day treks still have some limited openings. throughout the summer. Most of these are probably later on in the summer towards August, when you start getting in conflict with school openings again, that sort of thing. But there are some openings still there. Also for the individual treks, Philmont offers a wide variety of treks that you can sign up for by yourself. You get put into a provisional crew with people from around the country. And these are really tremendous programs. There's the trail crew, a lot like the goat crew that Elizabeth was talking about with Lenhok'sin. There's an OA trail crew as well. Discounts on those treks are amazing. $350, I think, for 14 days at Philmont is an incredible bargain. Rayado, for those of you who want a personal challenge, Rayado is it's 21 days long. You go out there and cover most of the branch, leadership skills, working together, a lot of like a COPE type environment as well. That's really a push for developing yourself and getting affected by the magic that's out at Philmont Ranch. ROCS are roving,
outdoor conservation.
Outdoor conservation, yeah, outdoor conservation. That's it. That's for people that want to. Thank you, Elizabeth. Get into land management, conservation projects, and they here again form up a crew and you go out for 14 days, I believe. Ranch hands, obviously, with the Philmont is a working cattle ranch, and so they have a ranch hands program. And they also have a STEM program. It's new, I think, since last year. Sea base, there's some limited slots. There's a lot in May and April available down at Sea base. You may, if you consider going over a spring break or something like that, you'd have to get on that one pretty quick though. But later on in the year, there are some openings in coral reef sailing, Key West sailing, the Marine STEM program, the Out Island Adventure, the go out and live on an uninhabited island I was talking to you about, scuba liveaboard, and then there's a few openings with the longer sailing excursions, St. Croix Scuba, and the EcoSTEM Adventure. Northern Tier availability is, like I was talking about earlier, only an Ely base this year. There's a few limited dates in August. And then finally at Summit always has lots of wide variety openings later in the same year, basically. New River, Summit, bike packing, all the programs, ATV, the Marksman, and the Pack and Paddle are all available. Let me mention something here real quick about the signups. If you want to go to Philmont, you need to make up your mind and get into the lottery 18 months before the year that you're going to go. The other bases are pretty much in the fall for the coming summer program. So although I've just talked to you about getting on at the last minute here, primarily what you want to do is sign up at least 18 months or maybe 12 months ahead of the time that you want to go, which gives you time to prepare, especially for Philmont, to a lesser extent, the Northern Tier program. But Lenhok'sin and some of the other bases you can apply a little bit later on. But I just wanted to point that out, that especially for Philmont, you need to allow yourself lead time to get into the system and get the trek that you want. Okay, Elizabeth, we go to the final slide, please. Oh, I didn't know I had. Ooh, okay. It's a hidden gem you gave me, Phil. Thanks for.
We like to do this in a fancy
animation
style.
There. Okay. Okay, so I know a lot of you have questions about Philmont and what's going on at all the high adventure bases this summer because of COVID-19. All the bases are planning to open. The ones that limited availability is Northern Tier, which I mentioned just a minute ago. Philmont actually has had some folks at the backcountry this spring already. And so they're feeling pretty good about being able to handle the conditions to process everybody safely and get you out to the backcountry. But they all are planning to open in one way or another. And unfortunately, because of the cost of related expenses with disinfection, increased food costs, and so forth, they're all tacking on a $50 surcharge onto the price of their fee. For the trips that we're sponsoring with the council, we're absorbing that cost into the existing costs we quoted you in the beginning of the year. So that's not a problem. But if you're going to Philmont or any of the other bases on your individual, with your individual unit, you've probably already been notified that you're going to have to come up with another $50. Everything they're planning on doing, it sounds like a real bargain, although of course $50 is $50. But a little bit down later here, Philmont has actually erected some outdoor pavilions to be able to handle the load, take some of the load off the dining hall, with people having to be spaced out. We've actually had put in two outdoor eating pavilions. So that's pretty incredible. You will be asked to complete a screening form before you leave. And then once you get there, you'll screen you again, take your temperature and so forth. Unfortunately, the protocols that a lot of us have been living with now for just about any activity, they're going to check your temperature, ask you the long questionnaire of your history of coming in contact with somebody who may have had COVID or whatever. And there's going to be, they're going to actually require you to have a mask, but they're going to provide you a mask as well. Social distancing, all those standard protocols will be enforced in base camp and in the program areas, in the backcountry and staff camp, like some of the ones up close to Philmont, Miranda, and those sort of things, where there's the staff there already. You'll be asked to mask up when you go down to the program area, down to the cabin for that evening's program or whatever. However, your crew will become a cohort, and you'll stay together with your crew, and try to stay the minimum distance away from other crews. But your crew becomes its own cohort. You can interact a little bit closer and still feel safe. One thing that's interesting is that they've formed a new youth leadership position now called the sanitation chief. And that's a leadership position in the crew for the bases. Your job is to keep everybody 6 feet apart and wear their masks and enforce all the protocols continuously, because people forget after you get out hiking for a while and you're coming into a staff camp and you got to put your mask on and those sorts of things. The other couple last ones here, Philmont originally was thinking that they were going to waive the wilderness first aid, having a crew member trained in wilderness first aid, but they've backpedaled on that now. However, they're only requiring one crew member to be WFA certified. All the other, Philmont used to be 2, but they're allowing 1 this year. All the other bases have held on their original requirement for just 1. But with the availability of wilderness first aid courses opening up now, they feel confident that you should be able to get training in wilderness first aid and make their requirement. And then the last one, sea-based participants are required to have their own mask, fins, and snorkel. They have the capability to provide these, but for obvious sanitation reasons, they want you to have their own. And one thing that we just learned about today is that Philmont came out with an additional medical screening form, supplemental risk advisory. Basically, they've noticed that symptoms of COVID-19 often simulate or similar to high altitude sickness. And so they're concerned with being able to trace somebody's history out, make sure what they're seeing is in fact high altitude sickness, not something related to COVID symptoms. So if anyone has been hospitalized for COVID, any participant for this summer, that is, hospitalized or had a severe case of COVID-19, they need you to complete a return to activity waiver form, which means you basically go back to your doctor, get them to re-qualify you for high altitude, high energy treks, backpacking treks, carrying a loaded pack of 50 pounds and all that sort of thing. Just to check to make sure that you're still in good physical shape, even though you may feel well, to be able to endure the rigors of Philmont. Also, if you've had a, excuse me, a positive COVID test, or had any symptoms or had COVID over the last 6 months, they want you to be medically cleared again using that form. And finally, if you're in any high risk category, then they would like you to be vaccinated for COVID-19 before you arrive. So those are the criteria for this new form. Here again, it's just a safety thing. Philmont is certainly doing its best to make sure that everybody gets out there for the time of your lifetime, time of an experience of a lifetime. Here, I got that split out. And are safe out there. All right, I think that's about all the conditions that I had to go over. The last slide here is our resources. Those are the COVID-19 protocols. You can actually take the first half of that URL there, and that's the base web page. In other words, PhilmontScoutRanch.org is our web page, in case you want to go poke around and check up on some of the things I might have mentioned here. But those are the 4 bases, and Lenhok'sin, the information. That's a tremendous website you guys have built out. It's really, really useful and fun to look at. I'm sorry I didn't have much more pictures. Elizabeth, you aced me out with all the cool photographs, but hopefully we've got some questions here. We can talk about people wondering about certain things for any of the bases. Last thing, we had one quick question in the Q&A asking about swamp base. Isn't that a high adventure base? There's plenty of high adventure bases around the country. The 4 that I mentioned tonight are the national bases that are, like I said, administered out of national BSA. Local councils like NCAC with Lenhok'sin have a council camp. Maine High Adventure is one up north. The Adirondacks, swamp base down in Louisiana, Moab out in Montana. And so there's plenty of other opportunities to go to have a great experience at another camp. Some of them have some pretty unique features like swamp base. You can wrestle an alligator, I guess. But anyway, that's the difference between the national and the other bases. The best thing is what I can recommend to everybody that's listening here tonight is go out and get on a high adventure base somewhere out there. Go for a hike. You'll have the time of your life. I think that's about all for me.
All right, thanks team. I will turn the floor over to Sarah on the back end to grill us with questions for the next 20 or so minutes or however long we go. And we'll just kind of, any one of us can jump in as appropriate to answer the question.
All right, so most of our questions have to do with COVID-19. So we'll go with the first one. In light of COVID, do backpackers share tents or do you recommend one-person tents?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'll just jump in here and then I'll let Elizabeth take it for Lenhok'sin. But overall, from a Goshen standpoint, we are okay with someone who wants to sleep in their own tent, whether that be youth or adults. So if this is the season where you are more comfortable with that, we are okay with that.
And at Lenhok'sin, throughout the past several years, everybody always brings their own tent. However, in past years, there's been like buddy pairs for it, especially when it comes to sharing the weight of a tent, because they can get a little heavy for some scouts. However, again, leaving this to your unit's discretion. If your unit feels more comfortable having each participant in their own tent, that's absolutely fine. We have the room for it, and we've got the entirety of Goshen for your tents. However, I do recommend that then you look at the number of people that each tent is for. So you don't want to scout bringing a 4-person tent meant for car camping versus a 1 to 2 person backpacking tent. So that just goes into your pre-trek shakedowns that you may do.
I can hop in on for Philmont. Philmont has not yet recommended it for single tents. Like Elizabeth said, if you feel comfortable bringing a single tent, like most adults, I think, could go out for a trek. The crew will bring a single tent, probably because most of them snore. But the other thing you can do if you're in a 2-person tent is sleep head to toe. And that means you're not breathing on the person, your tent mate in the evening. So that's one mitigation method you can use with a two-person tent.
Yeah, that's a good point to bring up. Thanks, John.
You bet.
All right, along the vein of COVID-19 transportation, with social distancing in mind, is there any general guidance on carpooling for the different adventure camps?
I can tell you what the national bases are saying is don't take a train or a bus. It's okay to fly. There's going to be criteria. You're going to be screened when you get there and everything and tested if necessary. But there's nothing that says you have to drive out there. We're still going to accept, for now, airlines flying in. There's also a shuttle, I think, that goes up to Denver base, but that's probably not for a whole crew. That's more like an individual trek. But anyway, that's what I know about the national bases.
Yeah, as far as anything Goshen related, we're recommending that everyone make use of cohorts when they come to camp. No more than 25 people, but that doesn't seem to be an issue with Lenhok'sin. So you're gonna have smaller groups anyway. But travel to and from your camp with your cohort is the recommended practice there, and also just a general practice and a general rule of thumb, if you will, for all of these things. Is that you want to make sure that you are limiting the amount of people that you're exposed to or come in contact with on your way to camp, and also after camp, but mostly on your way to camp. So if there's any way, the less people that you're interacting with, the better. But please do plan on arriving at camp with your cohort if you're carpooling.
All right, and we had a question about how the dining is working, I think mostly at Lenhok'sin, but also if you could speak to it at the high adventure bases, that would be good too.
Yeah, so at Lenhok'sin, it's you in the outdoors. We don't have a dining hall per se, but when you're at base camp, we do have an open air dining pavilion, but we've got a floor plan ready to go for spreading our tables, so it's just you and your unit a certain distance apart from one another, and our staff, we're not going to be mingling as much like we have in the past, so our staff will have our own table. We'll still wave from across the area. When you're at Outpost, it's only your unit and the staff at that particular outpost that are there. So whether you choose to eat around the fire circle or something, you can spread out for what's comfortable. As I mentioned before, our food is packaged in buddy pairs, and we do Mountain House food, but all of the food within there is packaged separately, whether that be like a Nutri-Grain bar or dried fruit. So they're not going to be putting their hands into the same container. And I recommend bringing a mess kit, whether that be the Light My Fire bowls or just a cup. I know I eat out of a cup because it's easier and less cleanup, and spooning out what you want to eat from the Mountain House bag, and that way you're not putting your spoon into the same container.
Spoon. Yeah, I was mentioning before at Philmont, at least, let me start again. In the dining hall, they've spread people out now. They're not sitting side by side at the cafeteria style table that are in the dining hall. So they've lengthened the hours that the dining hall be open for different meals, so they could spread people out over more time and limit the capacity inside the dining hall. And then they've constructed some pavilions outside, and if it's a good day, it's always a good day at Philmont, but you can eat outside as well. And the other bases have modified their, Elizabeth, can you pull up the slides and go back to their availability? There you go. Adapted food service, thank you. I couldn't remember that term, but it may mean that if they have to spread people out, at Philmont, they'll serve you trail food as opposed to a commercial walk-through line like you normally have. The other bases will do a lot like what you do at Lenhok'sin, that is, for sea base, take your meals out onto the beach or whatever and spread out that way. They all have some adaptation to make sure that the proper spacing is maintained between all the participants.
All right, next question. Do you recommend shakedown hikes before Lenhok'sin?
Absolutely. Oh, I couldn't recommend that more. I know I mentioned, you get to plan your itinerary. We tell you where you're going to end up each day, but it's up to you and your scouts to figure out how you're going to get there. So based upon that, I always recommend planning for more than what you're planning on hiking. That way you're not struggling or trying to get up a hill that's maybe a little too ambitious. So whether you are getting together with your crew, once a month, or they're doing things individually, like going hiking every weekend, I always recommend that. And doing a very similar training regimen to what you would do for Philmont or any other type of backpacking adventure. And that could look starting off as just a normal day hike with your just a day pack, some water, a first aid kit, your 10 essentials, whatever that may be, and working up, building that up to a day hike with your backpacking bag and slowly building on that weight to a point where you're comfortable with a 45 to 50 pound pack.
That's tremendous. I can't add much more to shakedown hikes, but they're definitely important, whether you're going to Lenhok'sin or any other base, for several reasons. Build up your stamina, build up toughen your feet up a little bit. And then a lot of it's crew building as well. It's not just shakedown for your hiking, it's shakedown for your gear. Have you learned where everything is? Find a place in your backpack. You know where your rain gear is. If it's raining, it's hopefully on an outside pocket somewhere. And just stuff that you don't need and you can leave behind and lessen your load. And then finally, the storming, norming, performing. Everybody's going to get on each other's nerves a little bit, but the more you do the crew activities together, the faster you'll get. You get up in the morning, it won't be, okay, we're going to be ready to go in 45 minutes. And an hour later, it's still, we're going to be ready to go in 45 minutes. You blow the whole day because you can't get out of your base camp, your camp from the night before early enough. So shakedown hikes are vitally important, even in the mighty hills of Lenhok'sin.
One other thing about shakedowns that is always great is taking notice of how much fuel you're using. Since at Lenhok'sin, you bring all of your fuel that you need for the week and we'll resupply you throughout the week, like on a Wednesday afternoon or something. So on those shakedown hikes, look at how much you're using, and if you're maybe using too much and boiling your food, or somebody's shoes got wet, speaking from experience, and they decide to dry out their shoes using the last of your fuel, and then you have, just dehydrated food and no hot water to rehydrate it. Don't do what my crew did.
Crunchies.
As well as maybe your tent's leaking and you have no idea, and you don't want to go through any type of trek with a leaky tent.
All right, here's a Philmont specific question. Are they doing COVID testing for everyone at Philmont?
Yes, everybody will be. They're going to ask you to complete a form, a pre-screening form before you leave within 1 or 2 days of your departure, and they're going to be screening you when you get out there. And they obviously have a long program of taking care of their staff and getting them all screened and tested as well.
All right, and back to Lenhok'sin. You kind of touched on this a little bit before, but do crews carry all 5 days of food at Lenhok'sin?
No, you don't. That would be truly evil. So when you get to camp, we give you all of your food that you're going to need for Monday breakfast, or sorry, not Monday breakfast, Monday lunch, which is the first meal that you have out on the trail, all the way until Wednesday lunch. And when you arrive at your outpost for Wednesday, that's when we give you all the food that you need for Wednesday dinner all the way until Friday lunch. So you're just carrying for half the week.
All right, and it looks like our last question here, unless anyone types some other ones, are there any international locations on other continents? Or if we don't know the answer, where would be a good place for people to find the answer?
Actually, what do you think, the international committee, Phil?
Yeah, I mean that's the best. That's the best I could get. I don't know. I don't know. You don't know. If you don't know John, then I don't think anybody here does.
Well, I know of a few places. There's the can't remember the name of it, the International Scouting Center in Sweden.
Is it Kandersteg?
Yes,
Something
that's
similar
it.
like that.
Yep, yep. Which is a destination for a lot of units looking to do a high adventure. We've had a few come through. I'm at Goose Creek District. We've had a couple people talk about a few adventures over in Ireland and England, and you can consider Alaska international or not, but there's definitely some, I get some information on planning treks up in Alaska. Anyway, whoever this person is, if you want to write me an email, john.blackwell@goosecreekdistrict.org, I can try to point you to some people that might be able to answer your question a little bit better than I did or we did just now.
And someone was wondering about the camp in the Virgin Islands, which I presume is Camp Wall.
Camp Wall. You want to talk to that, Phil?
That's a good question to bring up. We do actually happen to own a third camp property in the Virgin Islands called Camp Howard M. Wall. It is actually leased by Florida Sea Base that John talked about a little bit earlier. So it is a subset of Florida Sea Base. So everything that applies to Florida Sea Base applies to that property during the summer. But great question. And if your troop is ever interested in taking an excursion all the way down there, you have to get yourself there, but we can make some sort of arrangement in the off season if you're interested.
All right, and back stateside with Lenhok'sin, is wilderness first aid required?
Yes, we have similar to what John mentioned with Philmont opening up with requiring wilderness first aid still, we do as well, especially since WFA is beginning to open up. I believe that Camp Snyder is offering some WFA courses in April, so use those local NCAC resources. They're there and available and has a really great course. And we require 2 because what happens when one of your WFA people go down? So it's just a lot of coverage, but that WFA certified person doesn't have to be an adult. Some of your scouts can go off and get wilderness first aid certified, and it's great for character building and leadership, and they count as certified scouts as well.
It's 14 minimum for WFA class.
Correct.
Yeah, just like Elizabeth was saying, we do offer that at Camp Snyder as part of what we're referring to as the Outdoor Preparedness Initiative. And I believe we just opened up some new classes and some new spots with things opening up a little bit. So yeah, certainly encourage you to look into that if you're interested.
The thing about WFA certification is if your unit is going backpacking and you're out in the backcountry of NCAC here, AT or someplace like that, you need to have WFA certification. You're more than an hour's hike away from a hospital. So it's not just for high adventure that you want to have people trained in your troop or crew or whatever for wilderness first aid. It's also for your own outings that you take as a troop.
All right, another Lenhok'sin question. Is there a ranger that stays with the crew as they go around?
No, there is not a designated ranger that goes around with the crew, but each of our outposts has 2 staff members that are there. I can answer any questions. You're also never going to be too far away from an outpost or from myself being able to get out to you. So we've got, if you're thinking about emergency response, we have a very quick emergency response system in place to make sure that you're safe and we can get to you. And even if you've got a disagreement or maybe you were a little too ambitious on how far you want to hike that day, there's a staff member there that can help you.
All right, and now we're just getting comments about the international bases, but I think we're running low on questions, so we'll give it another minute to see if we get any more questions.
right. I think I'm going to, oh, one last question. Any chance climbing will open in time for Lenhok'sin?
I do have an inside scoop about climbing. Ooh, inside scoops. So if you were attending Lenhok'sin back in 2019, you know that climbing had to shut down due to erosion concerns and everything. Of course, we need to respect that, leave no trace, and everything that goes along with that. However, the climbing committee and I are currently scoping out a new location that will not be open for this summer, but it will be open for summer 2022, which is also just in time for the 50th anniversary of Lenhok'sin High Adventure. So why not couple those two together? Can you tell I'm excited about this summer? I am.
Elizabeth is very glad to have that excitement, and I am too. This is going to be a fantastic summer. It's great to be out there again and doing all of the things in the outdoors that we like to be doing. So thank you everyone for being here. Thank you very much to our panelists for joining us tonight and making my job real easy tonight. The last two were a lot more labor intensive for me. So thank you so much to everyone who tuned in. And please do, oh, first of all, I did want to mention that this was recorded and we will be posting it on our website. So please check into the latest news section of goshen.org if you have questions about that. And then also please do tune in next week. We did have to postpone one of our webinars. So we're going to be talking all about Scouts BSA programming next week as we've made some updates as it relates to COVID with the governor's latest order. So please do tune in then. And thank you all so much and have a pleasant evening.